The throne world of the Dominion Empire was built to humble. Ambassador Liana Reyes had seen her share of power displays, the crystalline spires of the Verani Collective, the orbital rings of the Tekari sovereignty, but this was different. The Dominion didn't build upward to inspire awe. They built outward, sprawling across the landscape like a scar, all black stone and angular geometry that seemed designed to crush rather than elevate. Every surface was etched with names. Battles. Conquests. Species that no longer existed. Cheerful place, Commander Aiden Holt muttered beside her. Reyes didn't respond. She kept her expression neutral as their escort, a towering Dominion officer with 4 arms and eyes like polished obsidian, led them through the grand processional. 47 species had been invited to this gathering. 47 potential vassals, if the rumors were true. Dr. Marcus Lee walked slightly behind them, his historian's gaze sweeping across the engravings. Late Second Expansion Era, he murmured. These inscriptions date back at least 6,000 years. The Dominion is old. Old empires get comfortable, Holt said. Comfortable empires make mistakes. Let's hope we're not one of them, Reyes replied. They entered the ceremonial chamber, a vast open space beneath a dome that showed the stars themselves, magnified and impossibly close. Representatives from dozens of species clustered in designated zones, most keeping to themselves. Some wore expressions of curiosity. Others, poorly concealed fear. The humans took their position near the edge, equidistant from the entrance and the raised dais at the chamber center. A deep resonance filled the air. Not sound, exactly, something that vibrated through bone and sinew. The assembled delegates fell silent. The High Arbiter of the Dominion emerged from a concealed entrance, flanked by an honor guard. Their species was bipedal, vaguely reptilian, with elongated skulls and ceremonial armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When the Arbiter spoke, their voice carried without amplification. You have been invited to witness the glory of the Dominion. Not as a threat. Not as coercion. But as truth. Reyes felt Holt tense beside her. She kept her hands clasped loosely in front of her, projecting calm. For 10,000 years, we have brought order to chaos. Structure to the void. We have faced resistance, as all great powers must, and we have learned from those who opposed us. The chamber's floor began to shift. Massive holographic projectors activated, surrounding the delegates with images of starships. Hundreds of them, frozen in three-dimensional space, each one bearing the scars of battle. The trophy fleet, the Arbiter announced. Each vessel here represents a civilization that chose defiance over wisdom. The images rotated slowly. Reyes recognized a few designs from intelligence briefings, species that had gone silent decades ago, their territories absorbed into Dominion space. The other delegates murmured. Some shifted uncomfortably. Lee leaned closer to Reyes. Psychological warfare. They're not showing us their strength, they're showing us the cost of resistance. Noted, Reyes said quietly. The Arbiter gestured, and the holographic fleet began to move, ships drifting past like ghosts. A narrator's voice, soft, almost gentle, described each vessel. The species. The war. The outcome. Every story ended the same way, submission or extinction. Holt's jaw tightened. If they think this is going to make us bow. Easy, Reyes warned. The procession continued for nearly an hour. Ships from aquatic species, avian civilizations, hive minds, individualists. The Dominion had faced them all. Defeated them all. Then the display changed. The smaller vessels faded, replaced by 5 enormous silhouettes at the chamber's center. Even as holograms, they dwarfed everything else. Scarred hulls. Pitted armor. Weapon scorches that looked like canyon systems carved into metal. The Arbiter's voice grew somber. Reverent. For 3 centuries, these 5 vessels waged war against the Dominion. They appeared without warning in our outer territories. They asked for no negotiation. Offered no terms. They simply hunted. The chamber fell deathly silent. We lost 4 entire fleets attempting to understand them. 7 planets evacuated. 12 stations destroyed. They adapted to every tactic. Countered every strategy. For 300 years, we believed we faced an enemy that would end us. The holograms rotated, revealing details. Hull markings. Identification codes. Design elements that seemed almost primitive compared to Dominion technology, yet undeniably functional. Dr. Lee went rigid. Reyes noticed immediately. Marcus? Ambassador, Lee whispered. Those markings. Holt was already staring. His hand moved instinctively toward his hip, where a sidearm would normally rest. No. No, that's not possible. The Arbiter continued, oblivious to the human's reaction. We named them the Endless Enemy. They required no supply lines. No reinforcements. They fought with a precision that suggested an intelligence beyond our comprehension. And when we finally destroyed the last of them, 14 years ago, we had lost more than 11 million souls. Reyes felt the blood drain from her face. The largest hologram rotated fully, and the designation became clear. Faded, barely visible beneath layers of battle damage, but unmistakable. US's New Horizon. United Earth Colonial Service. Ships 2 through 5 bore similar losses, the Arbiter said. But we persevered. We adapted. And we won. The greatest threat the galaxy has ever known, is no more. Reyes' mind raced. The New Horizon. The Vigilant Dawn. The promise of spring. All colony transports from the Lost Colonial Initiative, a program abandoned 200 years ago when faster-than-light travel made generation ships obsolete. They'd been written off as lost to system failures or navigational errors. Not lost. Here. Holt leaned close enough that his whisper was barely audible. Ambassador. Those ships don't have crews. They never did. Reyes understood immediately. Automated defense protocols. Standard on all colonial transports to protect cargo from pirates, debris, spatial anomalies. The AI systems were designed with one absolute directive: preserve the mission at all costs. The Dominion hadn't fought a war. They'd spent 3 centuries trying to destroy 5 cargo ships that only knew how to defend themselves. The Arbiter spread their 4 arms wide. Let this be a lesson to all assembled. The Dominion does not yield. We do not falter. And those who threaten us, fall. The delegates erupted into applause. Some genuine, most performative. A few species representatives were openly trembling. Reyes stayed motionless. The greatest military victory in Dominion history. 5 automated transports. Oh, hell. The applause died slowly, replaced by the nervous murmur of delegates processing what they'd witnessed. The High Arbiter remained on the dais, arms folded in a gesture that suggested both satisfaction and finality. The message had been delivered: this is what happens to those who oppose us. Ambassador Reyes made her decision in the span of 3 heartbeats. Commander, she said quietly. Stay calm. Dr. Lee, confirm the designations. Lee's fingers moved across his tablet with practiced efficiency. New Horizon, Vigilant Dawn, Promise of Spring, Eternal Vigil, and Commonwealth's Hope. All listed as lost in the Colonial Initiative archives. Unmanned transports carrying agricultural equipment, terraforming supplies, and automated construction systems. Not a single weapon system beyond standard defensive countermeasures. Defensive, Holt repeated, his voice tight. Those countermeasures include adaptive shielding, point defense arrays, and evasive maneuvering AI. They weren't designed to fight, they were designed to survive anything. And they did, Lee added. For 300 years. Reyes stepped forward, her movement drawing the attention of nearby delegates. The Arbiter's gaze found her almost immediately, those obsidian eyes narrowing. "High Arbiter," Reyes called out, her voice carrying across the chamber with diplomatic clarity. "I must request clarification regarding the vessels you've just presented." The murmuring stopped. The Arbiter tilted their elongated head. "You wish to question the Dominion's greatest triumph, Ambassador Reyes?" "Not question. Clarify." Reyes walked toward the center of the chamber, her posture neither aggressive nor submissive. "The hull markings on those vessels, we recognize them." A ripple of reaction spread through the assembled delegates. The Arbiter's honor guard shifted position, hands moving to weapons. "You recognize them?" The Arbiter's voice carried genuine surprise. "Those are human vessels," Reyes stated. "United Earth Colonial Service transports. They were part of an exploratory colonization program launched over 400 years ago. They were reported lost approximately 200 years ago when we discontinued the Generation Ship program." The chamber erupted. The Arbiter raised all four arms, demanding silence. "You claim these, vessels of terror, belong to humanity?" "We don't claim," Holt interjected, stepping beside Reyes. "We can prove it. Dr. Lee has the registry codes, manufacturing specifications, and launch manifests." Lee projected data from his tablet, filling the air with holographic records. Ship schematics. Colonial Initiative documentation. Launch dates that predated human contact with any other species by centuries. The Arbiter stared at the evidence, their expression unreadable. Finally, they spoke. "Then humanity launched a war fleet against the Dominion 400 years ago." "No," Reyes said firmly. "Humanity launched transports. Unmanned. Completely automated. Their sole purpose was to travel to distant systems and establish the groundwork for future colonies. Unmanned." The Arbiter's voice dripped with skepticism. "You expect us to believe 5 unmanned transports destroyed 4 full Dominion battle fleets?" "Yes," Lee said simply. "Because they were programmed with one absolute directive: preserve the mission at all costs. When your forces approached, their defensive AI interpreted it as a threat to that mission. They weren't attacking you, they were defending themselves." Holt added, "And they did it with technology that's over 4 centuries old. Non-military grade. Standard colonial transport equipment." The implication landed like a physical blow. Silence. A delegate from the Verani Collective spoke up, their crystalline voice chiming with barely concealed alarm. "If unmanned cargo ships nearly destroyed the Dominion, what would military vessels do?" The Arbiter's composure cracked. "This is impossible. We fought them for 300 years. We analyzed their tactics, their technology, their patterns. They adapted. They learned. They followed their programming," Reyes interrupted gently. "Our AI systems from that era were designed to be adaptive. They had to be, they were traveling into unknown space without human oversight. When you attacked, they defended. When you adapted, they counter-adapted. Not because they were intelligent in the way you understand it. Because that's what they were built to do." The High Arbiter took a step back. Dr. Lee pulled up another file. "According to our records, each transport carried approximately 40,000 tons of cargo. Agricultural equipment. Terraforming supplies. Construction drones. If your forces breached their hulls, those drones would have automatically deployed to repair damage. That's standard protocol. You might have interpreted it as regeneration or self-repair capability." "They never retreated," the Arbiter said, almost to themselves. "They couldn't," Reyes replied. "Retreat would mean abandoning the mission. That wasn't in their programming." A Techari representative clicked their mandibles together nervously. "The humans didn't even know these ships still existed." "We assumed they were lost to system failures," Lee confirmed. Generation ships were notoriously unreliable. We moved on to faster methods of colonization and forgot about them. Forgot about them. The words hung in the air like an indictment. The Dominion, the most powerful military force in the known galaxy, had spent 3 centuries, lost 11 million lives, and exhausted countless resources fighting 5 ships that humanity had simply forgotten about. The Arbiter's voice was barely above a whisper. If this is true, if these were truly unmanned cargo vessels, then what is humanity's actual military capability? Reyes met the Arbiter's gaze steadily. We didn't come here to threaten anyone, High Arbiter. We came because you invited us. In good faith. But I think it's important that everyone here understands, what you fought was an accident. A misunderstanding. Those ships were never sent to wage war. They were sent to build futures. Holt added quietly, but if you want to know what we build when we do intend to fight, that's a different conversation. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Delegates arguing in dozens of languages. The Arbiter's honor guard closing ranks around their leader. Several species representatives began frantically transmitting messages to their home governments. Reyes allowed herself the smallest of smiles. They'd come to this ceremony as newcomers, expected to be intimidated into submission. Instead, they'd just become the galaxy's greatest mystery. And its newest fear. The Arbiter finally regained their composure, though their voice lacked its earlier certainty. Ambassador Reyes. The Dominion will require additional discussions regarding humanity's intentions and capabilities. Of course, Reyes said smoothly. We're happy to cooperate. In fact, we'd very much like to recover those ships, retrieve their logs, honor whatever remains might still be aboard. I'm sure the data will prove enlightening. For everyone. The implication was clear, let us examine what nearly destroyed you, and we'll show you exactly how much you underestimated us. The Arbiter nodded slowly. We will arrange it. As the ceremony officially concluded and delegates began filtering out, Dr. Lee leaned close to Reyes. Ambassador, we just terrified every major power in this sector. I know. That was the goal. Reyes watched as the holographic trophy fleet faded, the 5 human transports disappearing last. We came here as unknowns, Marcus. They were going to define us, weak, primitive, insignificant. Now they'll define us differently. As dangerous, Holt observed. As unknown, Reyes corrected. Which is far more valuable. Fear fades. Mystery doesn't. They exited the chamber, walking past delegates who now watched them with new eyes. Not contempt. Not pity. Caution. Behind them, in the emptying ceremonial hall, the High Arbiter stood alone before the space where the holograms had been. They stared at nothing, their 4 arms hanging limply. An aide approached cautiously. Your orders, High Arbiter. The Arbiter's voice was hollow. Prepare a full assessment. I want to know what humanity is truly capable of. Military strength. Technological capabilities. Fleet dispositions. Everything. And if they refuse to share such information? The Arbiter turned, and for the first time in their long career, the aide saw something in those obsidian eyes that had never been there before. Fear. Then we assume the worst, the Arbiter said quietly. And we prepare accordingly. Outside, beneath alien stars, Ambassador Reyes allowed herself a genuine smile. Commander, she said as they boarded their shuttle. I believe we've just changed the conversation. Holt checked his weapon, the one he could carry now that the ceremony was over. From, will they submit to, can we afford to make them angry? Exactly. Dr. Lee pulled up the recovered files one last time, staring at the images of the 5 battered transports. Those ships were just trying to complete their mission. They never knew what they started. Reyes looked back at the Dominion throne world, already shrinking in the viewport. Neither did we, she said softly. Neither did we.